The last drawing type that we're going to take a look at here is the elevation oblique. So here, the important things to note are that your elevation is going to stay exactly the same, and that your angle here is going to be the thing that changes. So this will be a true elevation with skewed dimensions going back depth-wise, but all of your elevation info will be correct. So we're going to jump over to our other file, and we're going to draw here. We're just going to look at how you would actually construct this drawing. So if I look at, basically if we're looking at this in elevation, then what we would do is we would want to basically draw with our ortho on. We're going to draw a line at 1 inch, and then we're going to rotate that up, so -45. Then we're going to copy that around to our endpoints, and then we're going to copy this guy back. And then here, if we just do a simple explode on this, what we would end up is a measured drawing here, so all of our edges are actually the right dimension. The only thing changes is actually the angle that these things are at. So if we go around and do this, we can change this to our outline layer, change these to our edges layer, and we would look something like that. So this is the drawing that we're trying to achieve. That's the basic way that you go in and construct it with line work. So here, if we look at just a cube first, so we're going to go through the same process here of just doing a cube first. So we're going to be looking largely at the same idea here. So what we're going to do first here, we're not going to do the rotation because the rotation is actually something that's more for the plan. So here we're going to copy this out. And again, what we're going to be looking at here is the depth of this thing. So we're going to do the same cage edit technique. We're going to do bounding box, C-plane, make sure those are all the point counts are set to 2. Set it to global, and then we have our points here. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw the same line. So again, we're looking at the depth of this thing. What I'm going to do for clarity is I'm just going to move this off of here. So what we need to do is, again, we need to get this vertical. So we're just going to go like that and get that vertical. And then I'm going to go into my front view here, and what I'm going to do is a rotate, and I'm going to rotate it from that bottom point by 45 degrees. So type in 45 and click enter. And then what I need to do is I need to do a move and move this to the back point. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking these 4 points and we're going to be reorienting them based on this bottom point to the top corner of that line. So if we select all of these 4 and then we do a move, we're going to move from that point to the top there. We can go ahead and delete our construction line. We can get rid of our points. We can click on this and get rid of our control. And then if we go into our front view, we'll see if we do a make 2D of this. And then we check some quick dimensions here. So I'm going to do a scale, and I'm just going to scale this. I know the edge should be 1, so I'm going to scale that. And we see if we overlay this over my constructed drawing, it's an exact match. So this is a good thing. So if I go through, I'll just do a quick diagrammatic line weighting. So again, outline the edges inside of that, and then the hidden edges. So some of this is a recap of last one. This is basically just how to do it in elevation versus in plan. So what we're going to look at now is what if we have multiple objects. So again, you guys are not going to be working with simple cubes. So you'll probably be working with things that are looking a little bit different than what this looks like. So I'm going to take 3 of these guys. We'll go ahead and we'll move this around. We'll move that one back there. We'll move this one out front. And then we'll do a scale on one of them just to get an idea. So again, we're going to leave these things in elevation. So we want our elevation to stay the same. We're going to select them. We're going to do a cage edit. Bounding box, C-plane. Our point counts should all be 2. Global. So we're going to do the same thing here. So in order to get a true measured drawing, we're going to click from back there to there. We'll drag this out here. We'll do a rotate. We're going to rotate that vertically. Then we're going to go into our front view. We see the line there. We're going to do a rotate. We're going to rotate from the bottom point, click once, and then just type 45 and enter. Then we'll do a move, and we'll move it to that back point. So now what we need is basically that bottom point to be aligned up there. So if we drag from left to right and then do a move, again, only selecting the control points, we'll see we end up there. We can again right click to get our points off. We can delete our object there. And then if we look in our front view, we're going to get a true elevation oblique here. Now this looks a little bit weird. You guys wouldn't do this, but I'm just going to move this for the sake of doing the drawing. Then we can do a make 2D. Click OK. And again, I went over some of the line weighting techniques that you might want to use. I'm not going to go over those here. Those are in the last, in the AXO one. So here what we can do is if we didn't want to see our hidden lines, we can get rid of those. And then this would be a true, again, measurable elevation oblique. So if we click from there to there, we see it's an inch. Again, I scaled that vertically, but these dimensions will totally be an inch. And then you see that all of our elevational data is still the same. So if you were to look at the elevation of these original objects, so I'm just going to undo some things. So if you look at the original elevation, we're still going to get those boxes when we go in and do that. So the last thing we're going to take a look at here are some variations on this. So basically, as long as you're leaving this cube in the exact same frontal orientation, you can do a little bit of what you want with this. So the main thing that has to stay here is this basic elevation view in order for it to be a true elevation oblique. So let's go ahead and do a cage edit on this, and then we'll do a bounding box. Actually, I'm going to copy this out. So I'm going to do a couple of, maybe 2 different types of versions here of just different ways you can think about this. So if we take this and then we do a cage edit, again, bounding box, we're going to take a look at C-plane. Our point count should be 2, global. So now we can go through the same process. We can go from front to back. We can drag this line out. We can rotate it. And then we can actually rotate it by 45 here. Whoops, wrong way. Still the wrong way. All right, so then we can move this line to that corner. So the first one I'm going to try is not moving it all the way to the top of that line. So let's go ahead and click here. And then what I'm going to do is in my front view, I'm going to just watch what's happening as I'm moving these points. So if I click from that point and I actually move it to my midpoint, you can see that I get a little bit better of an actual registration of what that oblique looks like as far as proportions go. So what's funky about this one is that it's a cube, but it looks more like a rectangle. So in order to make this actually look a little bit more true to form, what I recommend doing is doing one where you actually go to the midpoint of that line. So you're scaling it basically in half, and you get things to look a little bit more true. Now, if I wanted to do this a little bit differently, so if I wanted to get somewhere in between, I can turn my near snap on. I actually don't really like this snap, but for this case, it's actually okay. And then what I can do is I can keep basically tracking along that line, and then I can set a dimension that I like. So you can go anywhere along this line. You can even go out further if you want to exaggerate things further. And then you can do your elevation oblique in that manner. The next one we're going to look at is not going at a 45. So what we can do is we can just draw a line. Again, for the purposes of what we're doing, it doesn't actually necessarily need to be at any specific angle. So let's just go over from that corner, and then we'll go over to that edge, and we'll just leave our near snap on so we can just put it wherever we want along that edge. Obviously, you can be more precise about that. You can draw that at an actual angle, but for the demonstration, I'm just going to draw it like that. We'll do another cage edit on this one. Bounding box, C-plane, point counts at 2, global. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these points, and then if I move it along this line, you can see what's actually happening here is I'm getting a much less steep view of this. So this would allow us more elevational data and less plan data in our actual drawing. So if you're trying to show a sort of inhabitation of multiple layers of a drawing, this might be a really good way to do it without getting too into plan. So this is a way of 3-dimensionalizing information that still shows all of your elevation as true, but could give a better look sort of into spaces as opposed to above spaces. So there's a bunch of different ways to do this. You can take a look at multiple different ways of going about this. You can go to more extremes, so you can go all the way out like that, and you could show a cube even like that in an elevation oblique, where it gets really, really skewed. So mess around a little bit with the amount of skewing. You could find this really useful, especially if you start incorporating section cuts into this of multiple objects, for a way to actually begin to see into your building.